And welcome everyone to the Wednesday night D1Baseball weekend preview Instagram Live, the IG Live, if you will. We brought, now this is not me criticizing previous guests in any way, but we brought the full-blown varsity tonight. This is borderline all-star game type of material. We have no role players in our lineup tonight. We have nothing but 3-hole hitters. So there you have it. But we don't have that many of these left. You know what I mean? So we got to I don't have playing time for everybody right now, Fitzy and KR. We just got to win ball games right now.
Yeah, when are we going to get KP on this thing? What's up?
Contract problems.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the nights he's not doing games, he's got 3 teenagers or 2.5 teenagers, so he kind of has to lock in.
Yeah, I think his kids do pretty much every sport imaginable.
Yes. That always reminds me of a great Chris Burke story. So Berkey's got infinite children, and he's got 5. And so one time he came back from when we used to travel more. He came back from a game, and he was still kind of texting us and talking baseball. And Sarah, his wife, who is just a rock star, says to Berkey, "Hey, I need you to get in the game. Get in the game raising these 5 kids now that you're home." It was so Berkey's "You're right. I need to check in. Let's go."
A couple of years Hoover, he brought the whole crew up into the press box. It was
awesome.
The whole Berkey clan was up in the press box. That was funny to see.
Oh. Can I take a moment here to shout out the Old Dominion crew here making comments on the Instagram Live? We got Andy Garriola. Looks like we got Big Tom Scheffler.
Nice.
We got Aaron Holiday. I mean, man, these guys are coming in force for the IG Live tonight.
I like it.
Can Andy Garriola find out why in the world his boys didn't bid to host a regional? Let's go.
Come on, Monarchs. You guys could have been hosted.
Yeah, they could. Seriously. Brutal. Hey, gentlemen, can we do a toast? I've got coffee here, but
coffee.
I am. This is going to be sad, but I think it's worth doing. Just reading the news about Ryan Webb's going to be out for the year. Gunnar Hoagland. I mean, this happens in sports. Injuries are part of the deal, but man, those are good kids that were great players. I mean, the game. You feel for those kids that they're going to go through the rehab. The good news is that their futures are still very, very bright, but a bummer, right? Just great kids, great competitors. The game is less without them, really.
It's that time of year. I feel like in every season you get to May and it's like that last month. There's always a couple of these that happen and it stinks. And that's baseball. I don't know what we can do about it. I mean, we're trying as an industry to figure out this injury thing, and it feels like we haven't made a lot of progress. If anything, maybe we're going backwards because everybody's chasing the velocity. But it's too bad. But that's the reality we face.
Yeah, yep. I think it's one of those situations to where I feel like we're almost had delayed injuries a little bit. There were some teams that had some injuries early on, but I think we all kind of saw some injuries coming after the COVID layoff.
Mm-hmm.
When more so than if.
Yeah, that's well said. Hey, boys, before we jump in, I haven't listened to the Nerdcast yet this week. What?
Come on,
yeah, well, I got some more to it. Hey, so Jenny and I, my wife and I, we had our 4th flood of our marriage today. How about that? We live in the desert, by the way. We had 4 floods. We had a toilet shower overflow today. That was fun. So we've been dealing with the plumbers and the mitigation team today. So I might get myself sponsored by a mitigation company. It's like an annual event. We got to stop that. Yeah. So I digress. Nerdcast. What was the most spirited part of the conversation? What do I have the most to look forward to?
It was the hosts, especially the back end of the host discussion. We did pretty well until we got to about 15 or 16, and then it was just a log jam. And I don't even remember where we wound up. Was it Florida State we had as our last host? Which, who knows? But, I mean, it feels like that's a team with some momentum. But, I mean, you got those ACC teams in a logjam. You got those Conference USA teams. You got, some teams out west. And you still have a couple of SEC teams there like Ole Miss and South Carolina just kind of hanging on in the periphery. And it feels like it's too early to pick 20 right now to narrow it. We need those last couple of weeks to get some clarity here, and we're not going to get it.
Yep.
No.
Kendall, go ahead.
interesting to see what the committee decides when it comes to those ACC schools, because if you look at Louisville and Florida State down the stretch, you could easily see both of those teams playing really well down the stretch and playing really well in the ACC tournament, especially Florida State. I might actually be buying a little bit more stock in something like FSU right now than I even am Louisville. FSU is playing really well right now. So I'll be very interested on that one. And like Aaron said, Conference USA, that's going to be fascinating. Like, I don't know with their split divisions, like how you really separate those teams. Like Southern Miss, La Tech's a little easier to separate. Charlotte, not so much. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with those teams.
KR, what's Martha telling us about when we're going to hear the 20?
Friday morning at 11 o'clock Central, Texas time.
So we call that Friday at noon for the rest of us. You know, even those people out west, we all know we operate on Eastern time. That's the standard. The D1Baseball scoreboard is on Eastern time. Kendall's the only one who runs on Texas time. Well, get with the program.
Remember, it's Texas time. It's not KR time, so it's not 11.
That's
like,
right.
Oh, it's 11 o'clock sharp.
KR time.
We're actually
plus 20
for it. So
I like it. That's right. Excellent, gentlemen. Hey, curious for you guys. I think the audience would enjoy this. What are your guys' next 3 weekends looking like? So we got 2 regular season weekends left and then a conference tournament. What are our plans? KR, why don't you go first?
Well, next weekend I'm actually going to go check out A&M and LSU and a couple of the series in the area. That's going to be a really interesting series. You've got LSU as a team next weekend that is trying to get in a regional. They're at 9 wins in the SEC. I think right now, and, Aaron, I don't know if Aaron will agree or disagree here, but, the bubble right now really isn't very impressive. Like, it's not really hard to, pick what teams are build. So I think LSU for now, I mean, it's going to change because you're going to have stolen bids more than likely. You had, 5 the year that Kentucky had 13 wins. But I'm starting to feel like if LSU, especially with its RPI, and, we'll see what the committee does host-wise and as compared to the RPI. But LSU with its RPI, if they can get to 13 wins and let's say win a game in the conference tournament, I start to feel pretty good about their chances of getting in. And so LSU next week will be interesting. And, of course, A&M, who knows what will happen with A&M here in the next few weeks. Certainly they've got a lot. They're going to have to get some magic in Auburn and then probably get some magic in LSU and just hope they can go on a deep run at Hoover to get in the tournament. So, and then off to Hoover on Monday morning. So
you do Monday morning for Hoover, KR? You get there bright and early. I guess you have to, right? Tuesday, game on.
But I get there like 5 o'clock Monday afternoon. So when are you getting there? Or are you going to Big 12?
Yeah, I'm going to Big 12. Did you guys know the Big 12 tournament's being played in Bristol, Connecticut this year?
Exciting. That's exciting, Runes. That's a good change of venue.
Hey, I will say this. It is always cool to go to the mothership. And the DoubleTree Hotel, which is literally like 150 yards from the mothership, it's a pardon my French, badass hotel. It's really cool. It's a really cool hotel. So anyway.
Calm down, Runes. It's a family show. You can't say badass here.
Hey, I do want to hear before.
Bam, Jamma.
I do want to roll in here before Fitzy gets to his series this weekend. I'll let him talk about it. But Martha did give me some interesting news. It does sound like Jack Leiter is going to pitch this weekend against Ole Miss. So that'll be interesting.
Because the senator, Aaron Fitt, will be in attendance.
That's right. They elevate their game when I come to town.
Well, Jack wasn't like Aaron Fitt's coming to town. I'm definitely going to pitch now.
That's right.
I am going back to Magnolia State this weekend. I'm getting in on Thursday, getting a look at Christian McLeod against Missouri in that first game of that series. Then I'm going to head up to Oxford for a pretty big series, a huge series for Ole Miss to try to get that hosting thing nailed down and potentially if they're in the 20, which I think they will be. And how are they going to fare without Gunnar Hoagland? I haven't seen Vandy in person yet, so that was kind of the main driving force here. I'd like to get some eyeballs on those guys. And then the next weekend, I'm back home. I got Florida State at NC State, which is a nice little ACC series. And then I actually haven't decided where I'm going. I'm kind of leaning toward the Big 12 tournament, but I may wind up with the ACC. We'll figure that out.
Bricktown Ballpark. It's a pretty awesome deal, man. OKC is a good baseball town. It's a good baseball state.
It goes off to Globe Life for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember talking to Josh Holliday about that and him thinking, man, like that is not awesome because the Oklahoma schools, they had a really nice home field advantage there in Bricktown. So, hey, by the way, guys, me and Chris Cotter have had 2 Bedlam games this year. which is fun. The games were, like they weren't super well played, but Bedlam is Bedlam. The crowds were great. And but Tyler Hardman, who's hitting like 400, would be hitting 450 if not for Chris Cotter and I. He's like, I'm not kidding you. I think he's 0 for 9 with me and Chris Cotter watching him. So Tyler Hardman, if you're listening, we apologize. That's on us. That is our bad. So there you have it. Oh, by the way, let me give you guys one more nugget from that game. So Jake Thompson of Oklahoma State, Connor McKenna of Oklahoma played on the same junior college team, the Palomar College, I think, Rockets in San Diego, California. Their head coach, Buck Taylor, pitching coach, Kansas State. How about them apples?
There you go. Nice pull, Roots.
Yeah, that's right. Buck texted me, so I didn't pull anything. It was great. Oh, it's awesome. Gentlemen, should we play the feud? Should we do it?
Feud.
Let's do it.
So this is good because usually we share our lists so as not to snipe our guests, but we have no guest this week, so let's just snipe away. Like may the best man win. So let's pick the order. So we should do the order whoever. So in our weekly picks, I'm in last place, which is not a good feeling, especially because I really, really was yappy early, but that has not turned out well. So I will draft last, meaning I will get the last pick of what slot I want. Fitzy, are you ahead of Kendall or Kendall's ahead of you?
He's clinging to a 1-game lead, even though he's in free fall right now.
Well, I'm actually gonna dispute something. Gennaro put out his picks as picking South Carolina last week.
No, he was right. It was I picked South Carolina. I hated bidding it, but I was flip-flopping back and forth in the spreadsheet, and I wasn't sure when the picks were pulled. But apparently they pulled them when I had South Carolina on the sheet. So I stand down.
Penalty for flip-flopping, as it should be. Make it stick your flag in the dirt, Fitzy.
So champ go first?
Well, the champ. So Kendall, you get even more privilege than that. The champ gets to pick whether he'd like to draft first, second, or third. Because remember, the 3-hole becomes the 4-hole. We're gonna snakeify this thing.
I'll go the 3-hole.
Okay, so you get the comebacker. Fitzy, where would you like to go?
I'm gonna go 2-hole. Runes is all you.
All right, so the 1 spot. So okay, what series can I snake from you guys? You know what? I'm going to be a West Coast homer. Give me UCLA at Santa Barbara. I mean, those are 2 teams with a lot to play for. I wonder about UCLA's resume if they lose another series to a Big West team. It just feels like UCLA is starting to run out of rope. I don't believe Matt McClain is going to play because of his thumb injury. I'm almost certain of it. I don't know how he would play with a bad thumb like that. And then, Santa Barbara needs to kind of get their momentum back because they lost 3 out of 4 at home to Irvine, who really, even following that series, Irvine just looked better. They just felt like a better team in that series. So, yeah, there's some West Coast intrigue. I like the NCAA tournament with both of those teams in it, but this weekend feels like, that's going to be an important data point. So, yeah, give me the Bruins at the Gauchos.
That's a good one, Rose. That's a good one. I'm going to take us to the Big Ten. I think this is really the series we've all been waiting for in the Big Ten. It's Indiana at Michigan. It is a 3-game series, which means we can actually include it in our weekly picks competition since we've been trying to avoid those 4-game sets. But this one is, the team that I've kind of been saying all year long I think is going to win the league is Indiana with their pitching with Tommy Summer and all these quality arms that they've got. McKay Brown, of course. I mean, he's had a fantastic year. He had a 1-hit performance last week over 7 strong innings. I really think this is Indiana's chance to go on the road and kind of establish themselves as the team in the top dog in the Big Ten. Now, will it be in time to get them a host? I'm thinking it's too late for that because those top 3 teams are bunched together enough that I don't think any of them has distinguished themselves enough to be in that top 20 this week. I think it's too late for that. But, you're still kind of jockeying for a position. You're trying to shore up your at-large credentials. It's a big series out there. 2 good clubs. Certainly we like Indiana. Michigan's pitching too, excuse me. But I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think it'll be a good one.
I like it. KR.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to actually surprise you a little bit. I'm going to go the SEC, but I'm going to go with South Carolina at Kentucky. You look at this series, both teams have a lot at stake. I think you look at South Carolina, the question being kind of is South Carolina still potentially host worthy? When you look at the RPI, they look pretty good. But they've lost 3 straight series in conference. South Carolina needs to get back on the horse a little bit. Then you look at UK. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast earlier this week, but what an excruciating game 2 they had against Florida. I mean, you legitimately look at this situation and say, if Florida is one of the hosts, as we expect later this week, that one pitch against Kentucky could be the difference between not being a host right now and being a host. And so that series, I mean, Kentucky had that game in its grasp. That would have probably punched their ticket. Now they have a little bit of work to do. The bubble's still pretty small, so they're still looking okay. But that's a big series for Kentucky. If you lose that series, I mean, you've got some work to do in Hoover, I think. And so that's a big series in the SEC. And for my next series, I'm going to go to Knoxville for the most obvious one, right? Like Arkansas and Tennessee. I think when you look at the series overall, it's kind of funny, right? Like from a national implication standpoint, it doesn't mean a whole lot because I think both teams are locked in the top 8s. It's just a matter of I don't even think the order matters. Like Arkansas could probably still lose 2 more series and still be the number 1 overall national seed. Go ahead.
I'm going to argue with you there. I think, listen, they're both 17-7 right now in the SEC. If Tennessee wins this series, they will be ahead in the standings and they will have the head-to-head edge. Now, Arkansas has the best body work. They've had by far the best season to this point. They have not lost a weekend. They've played the strongest schedule. But if they're behind in the standings and they've lost the head-to-head series to Tennessee, I'm wondering if Tennessee can jump over them to get the number 1 spot.
It is worth mentioning that Tennessee did draw Alabama and A&M as its other 2 Western opponents. So you just kind of wonder, they got 2 of the easier Western opponents outside of Arkansas. But no, you bring up a good point. They win the head-to-head. They would certainly have a good case. But, how about Tennessee? I mean, we've talked so much about those guys. I mean, Tennessee being tied for first in the SEC. I thought they'd be a regional team this year. But the fact that they're tied for first in the SEC with 2 weekends to go, pretty crazy. Especially considering their best pitcher hasn't pitched but one game this year. That was what, opening weekend or the Indiana State series. So they've done an amazing job this year, and that should be an electric series. They're going to 100% capacity. The fraternities are going to be packed in that place, yelling at everybody. It's going to be wild over in Knoxville.
I can't wait for Tennessee to take their first lead of the weekend, and all the fans start chanting "overrated" at Arkansas.
That's the go-to. Yeah, we do need to coach up the Lindsey Nelson legends a little bit. I like it.
Well, here's the thing I love about this series too. Not to just ramble about this series, but I love the dynamic of you've got chippy, hard-nosed Tony Vitello. You've got Tennessee gets a little chippy and loud, and then you got Mr. Bob Moore. Bob Moore is not going to put up with that, is he? Right? I wouldn't be shocked if Bob Moore goes full Kumar on those dudes and has.
I like it. Bobberts. Hey, gentlemen, I have a question. I have a question for our group. We may not be able to answer it tonight. So you mentioned UK and the bubble, KR. So I want you guys to correct me where I go astray. So to my knowledge, there are 30 automatic bids this year, 34 at-large bids. So it's +1 at-large bids, no Ivy League. Is that how you guys understand it?
Yes.
So the other thing that helps the bubble this year is there aren't 30 conference tournaments. Now, there's never every conference has a tournament because you've got the Pac-12, you've got the Big West. But I feel like there's probably 5 or 6 leagues right now that are just doing no tournament altogether. But again, it's been fluid too. Teams are changing their mind, or leagues are changing their mind on the fly. Can you guys think of any leagues that you know for a fact are not doing a conference tournament?
The WCC.
Ooh, okay.
When they actually Gonzaga and San Diego play the last week in the season, and Kentucky fans and Georgia fans, keep an eye on the series because San Diego's within striking distance, and Gonzaga is definitely getting in. And, San Diego wins that series and wins that regular season championship. They're getting in with Gonzaga, obviously.
Yeah. So somebody put in there, Mr. Goodwin, that's excellent. The MAC, no tournament. So there's that. So I got 4. I got Big West, WCC, Pac-12, and MAC. We'll see if anybody else can think of any. So that helps. That helps the bubble teams this year.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's definitely a good point. There's not having an Ivy League bid and having fewer of those conference tournaments. Well said, Runes. We've not been mentioning that at all.
Go ahead, Aaron.
My next series, speaking of conference tournaments, somebody requested here in the chat, give the Patriot League some love. Let's give the Patriot League some love.
Yes.
We got the Patriot League tournament starts this weekend. The matchup I'm pretty interested in here is Lehigh versus Navy, especially. I assume it's going to be Charlie Connolly against Mason Black. Really good pitching matchup to start that series off. Lehigh won the regular season. They went 17-10, so they are your favorite. But I think Navy might have been our preseason pick. Then you've got Army on the other side against Lafayette. So we've got a couple of series this weekend with the winners advancing to play next weekend for the championship. So Patriot League playoff time. Fire it up.
I like it. That's a good pull right there. Do you guys know that one year the Patriot League, the title game was announced by our buddy Mike Farron and the great Kevin Wilson of the Philadelphia area? I mean, come on. Like, that is an outstanding broadcast team right there. It's like getting Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, for God's sakes.
It is.
Yes. So does that mean it's 2 to me? I'm kind of losing my order.
2 to you. 2 to you.
Woo. Okay. So first one I'm going to do is give me how about a little Big South? Is there going to be a passing of the guard here? So Campbell is at USC Upstate. And so, USC Upstate is in first place right now, and they're kind of like the precocious young kid that's ready to kind of take over the neighborhood, and Campbell's kind of like the old guard. So that one is very interesting to me. That's a one bid league clear. Well, maybe, I don't know. It's a one bid league, right?
Well, Upstate, first of all, has put itself in position. If they can win the regular season title, I think they have a shot at net large. They're in the mid-30s in the RPI. They're in first place by a game and a half right now. They have already played Campbell in 3 games earlier this year. That was at Campbell. I attended the first game, and Upstate played great and won behind their ace, Jordan Marks. And then they got swept in a doubleheader the next day. So we'll see if they can turn the tables here on the Camels at home this weekend. I think Upstate is the better team. I think they're a really dangerous team, even in the postseason, if they can get in, because they got some pitching and they got some really quality veteran position guys.
Oh, I like it. Very good. Yes, free Cal Baptist. You guys see that in the chat? That's awesome. Gary Adcock is one of my favorite coaches that I coached against. When I coached against him in Alaska, I was with Fairbanks, and he was with the Kenai Peninsula.
Go Panners.
The Oilers. Panners. That's right. Panner Pride, Fitzy. Yeah, we were the Panners. Yeah, the Oilers was Kenai Peninsula. But and then he was an assistant coach at UCLA too. The coach Adcock's the best. Not shocking at all that the Cal Baptist Lancers are outstanding. And I'll tell you, like, that's a big deal trying to win that WAC regular season title. Them and Grand Canyon both having great seasons. But that's not where I'm going, boys. You know where I'm going? Give me, you know what? Give me, how about the Beavers at the Devils? Ooh. So Arizona State still kind of just fighting and clawing and scratching. And what makes this one interesting is Justin Fall, right when I was ready to write him off, he throws a complete game last week. ASU scrambling for pitching. Then Kai Joseph Murphy throws a 7-inning one-hitter. Now, here's where this gets dicey. What if Kai Murphy has to pitch against Oregon State, which is the program that he left in the Sunday game? They did not announce him. And Oregon State's a team that, when I saw them early, I thought very highly of them. It's weird to me that they're not in the top tier of the Pac-12, and they're just not. Like, the top tier is Stanford, Arizona, and Oregon. And Oregon State, I just thought was going to be in that neighborhood, and that they're not right now. And it doesn't mean they can't be, but just very surprised, and we'll see. But I think those are 2 tournament caliber teams, and I think it's a really important series for Arizona State for sure. So there you go, Beavs and the Devils.
We've got somebody pointing out here the Big Ten. Somebody mentioned the MAC, also the Mountain West, not doing conference tournaments. We should have this all on a spreadsheet somewhere so that we just have it handy. But I can't keep track of all this stuff. So thank you, Danielle.
So there's only 24 automatic bids this year. 24.
Well, via conference tournaments, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Good point.
Bruce has Nevada playing really well on the Mountain West right now. They've I think series against San Diego State and UNLV. And Tyler Bassetti set an NCAA record with his 9th straight game with a home run yesterday. How about that?
Move over Ken Griffey Jr.
That's right. Fitzy, we're coming back to you.
Is it my turn already? Did you give 2? I guess you did. Good job, Bruce.
I think I did.
I got an interesting series in the ACC this week. NC State Wolfpack back in action after exam break, going up to Pittsburgh. Both these teams have a lot to play for. Pitt, I think, will be in the 20 regional candidates. They got a chance to host. I mean, the Pitt Panthers have a chance to host a regional. If they win this series, I think they're sitting pretty. NC State, I think right now is certainly on the right side of the bubble. You win this series, you're really in good shape there. Wolfpack's dangerous. I mean, Kendall mentioned Florida State as a team that he feels good about long term, and I totally agree. If I'm buying stock in teams that can make noise in the postseason out of the ACC, teams that can get to Omaha, if I had to rank them, I think Florida State and NC State might be the top 2 teams on my list. I really do. I mean, NC State's position player group is outstanding, and the pitching has solidified. I still don't think it's one of the it's an elite pitching staff, but I think it's good enough with the way they defend and the way that they hit. They're very dangerous. So that'll be a fun series. Let's see if Pitt can keep it rolling coming off a series win against Boston College.
Gotta love it. KR, 2 for you.
Well, I'm going to go away from a power conference. I'm going to go down to the Southland with Abilene Christian at Sam Houston State for a 4-gamer.
That was on my list. You hate the power leagues, Kendall.
Yeah, of course. I hate everybody.
Hatred.
Series, Stitch had a terrific piece in his Underdog of the Week on Abilene Christian. This is a team that yours truly ignorantly picked 10th in the Southland in the preseason, and Rick McCarty. I love Rick, but he told Stitch, hey, what about KR picking us 10th in the league? So a little golf clap for Rick McCarty and company. But
20 credibility, KR. 20 credibility. Let's go.
Know your feet.
Clean it up.
I would inform Fid that Abilene Christian has been Division I for 8 years, but they have not made the NCAA tournament since they joined Division I. Go ahead. They've
only been eligible for the postseason for 3 years, which is the point that I was making. Was that they've not been a full-fledged member for very long.
But yeah, this is a fascinating league, and you bring up a good point. But this is a fascinating league. You look at Abilene Christian sitting at first place. Nobody expected that. But you look at Sam Houston. They've won 9 straight games. Jay Sirianni has these guys playing well. Colton Cowser is having a great year. You can go back a couple weeks ago. Walter Villa had a terrific story on Cowser and the year that he's having. But this league is separated. You've got the 5th place team, which is Sam Houston, a game and a half back. You've got Adam Corpus in 6th place, 2.5 games back with 2 weeks remaining. And then you've got 3 teams tied at the top: Abilene Christian, Southeastern Louisiana, and Blake Dean's New Orleans Privateers. So this is a huge series for the regular season championship, and just really intrigued to see what ACU can do on the road against a Sam team, who's the most talented team in this league. They're playing at home. They're on a winning streak. This is a big test for Rick's club, and I'll be very intrigued to see how they handle it.
Kendall, I'm going to join you on Team No Credibility because I'm looking up right now where I picked the Fairfield Stags to finish in the MAC, and it's not first. It wasn't first. And they're winning the league by 100 games.
Did you have them second?
Well, I no. So in my defense, how could you turn your back on a team whose hashtag is, or whose Twitter handle is, D1Baseball? I mean, come on, you got to get points for that.
But you turned your back on a team that has their hashtag is strut your stuff.
Yeah, I did not. St. Peter's did not get. Oh my gosh, 4th. I picked them 4th. Good, the best team in the history of the league. I picked 4th. Oh my gosh. Does David Seifert have a credibility camp that KR and I can roll in this summer that we can really try to build our credibility back up?
I went in on that camp too because I picked Notre Dame to finish 13th in the ACC and Pitt to finish 14th.
Yes, team No Credibility. I like it.
Ahead and just blame it on COVID.
Yes, there you go.
That's right. Oh well, COVID. Deal with it.
That's right.
I had COVID, so I'll just blame it on brain fog.
That's right. Amen. Yeah. That's right. Kendall, you owe us one more, please.
Speaking of brain fog, I cannot figure out the ACC. Clemson
sweeps the club,
sleeps Wake Forest, and then turns around and gets swept by Georgia Tech. Like I can't figure out this league for anything. They did bounce back with a win over South Carolina, but this weekend they go to Florida State, and Clemson does have some games to win. They're sitting at 15-15 in the league, and granted, they're playing more conference games in the SEC, so you kind of have to put that in context a little bit. But they've got 15 wins in conference. They go to Florida State. Florida State, one of those teams that's potentially looking to try to get a number one seed in the tournament. They're playing really well, so. Like, flip a coin. Like, who knows what we're going to see from Clemson this weekend? The only thing I can say is Caden Grice in that ballpark, he might hit like 9 home runs this weekend.
Seriously, move over Will Frizzell. That place can't hold Caden Grice.
That's a good call. That team is the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde team, Clemson, man. It's just wow. It's hard to get a read on that team, but that's a neat series. That's a good poll there.
Yes,
I think I'm on the clock, guys. I'm going to go to the Big 12. We got a big one here, Stillwater. Baylor, Oklahoma State, two teams that are trying to solidify their at-large position. I think right now they're both in fairly comfortably, but Baylor's up to 9-9 in the league now. Oklahoma State is right there at 10-11. And so, certainly if you get to 500 in the Big 12, I think you're an at-large team. If you get to 11-13, you got a pretty good shot, especially if you're Oklahoma State with a good RPI. But we've talked about some of the attrition that Oklahoma State had to deal with injuries-wise. But you still get a really strong performance from Justin Campbell. Emerging second-year guy, really talented guy, and let's see what they've got. They're back at home this weekend. Baylor's just kind of they've just kind of flown a little under the radar. This year, but they've done some really good things.
I said they're the same team every year. Like early on they don't play that great, and then by the end of the year they're like a slam dunk regional team.
It's like. It's a good point because like we always have Oklahoma State. It seems like they always get better as the year goes on, and then by the end they kind of kick it into gear under Josh Holiday. It's been the pattern for 8 years now, or however long it's been. Baylor is like that too, and this year it feels like they're doing that more than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is kind of scuffled here, although they won a big series last weekend at Kansas.
I like it. 2 for me, right, gentlemen?
Yep.
2 for me. All right. So I'm going to go Northeastern at Delaware. Delaware's not having a good year, but that is a program with great tradition. We'll come to that in a second. The Howland Huskies, by the way, great hashtag game, they've won 18 in a row. 18 in a row. Fitzy, have you said many times on our podcast this year, I don't care who you're playing. Winning 18 baseball games in a row is really hard to do. It's not like football or basketball where you can just physically overwhelm people. It's a game of skill. So,
but they're also a team that has legitimate pro talent. The scouts in the Northeast, they'll tell you about those guys. Jared Duper's having a huge year. He's a speed power guy in center field, but they have arms. They have guys. Kendall's talked about Cam Schlittler. You got Kyle Murphy. You got Brandon Default's got a good arm. They've got guys. Sebastian Keene, really talented second-year player. So they could be a handful in the postseason.
Yep, for sure. So, gentlemen, let me just do this on Delaware. Delaware has 2 very famous baseball alums, in my opinion. Can you name either of them?
I don't think so.
One of them fathered arguably one of the best baseball players of all time. That would be Jeff Trout. Mike Trout's dad was a really good player. Jeff Trout was a really good player at Delaware. Played up to AAA, obviously not as good as his son. But Jeff Trout, hell of a player. You know who else was a great player? Kevin Mensch is a Delaware Blue Hen. So just a quick digression. When I was the skipper of the Malvern Prep Fighting Friars, I was young and excited, and we were going to do all these cool things. And so we were able to schedule a game with St. Mark's of Delaware, and we were going to play in the Wilmington Blue Rock Stadium, which is a really cool minor league ballpark right off the highway. Awesome. So we go down there. The school's excited. The parents are excited. I'm excited. But the problem is we're playing Kevin Mensch in St. Mark's. And you can imagine for a high school team to play in a Carolina League ballpark was a big deal. They beat us like a drum. Beat us 18-1. Kevin Mensch hit like 3 balls off the outfield fence that I thought he was going to knock the dang fence over. So anyway, Kevin Mensch, really good player, good big leaguer, Delaware Blue Hen. There you go. Not a good day for the Friars.
He's a big, strong man. That's what I remember about Kevin Mensch.
Delaware, did you know that Joe Biden was actually offered to play, or like had a chance to play baseball for Delaware, but actually played football for them for a year?
The Blue Hens. They had the Michigan helmets. Well, I don't know. I can't tell you they had the Michigan helmets before Michigan, but they have the same football helmets as Michigan.
Apparently, was a good football player in high school and a good baseball player.
Well, there you go. I like it. I owe you guys one more, though, right? Let's go. Let's go Liberty at Kennesaw State. You know, Kennesaw State has got that series win over Georgia Tech. Liberty's really running away, but I think it's a good test for Liberty right there. Liberty feels like a real legit regional team, but Kennesaw State is not somebody they can sleep on. So good test for the Flames here this weekend. So there you go.
All right, this is the last round, isn't it? I think this is round 5.
Yes.
I've seen some people clamoring in the comments for Southern Miss, FAU, and you know what? I'm nothing if not a people pleaser. I'm going to do what you want. Let's talk about this series. You know, FAU entered the season, I think, is one of the teams to beat, we thought. It was hard to really know what to expect this year. Everything was so weird, but FAU is one of the best programs in the league, you know, regularly, year in and year out. And they didn't get off to a great start. They lost that series to USF, and then they got swept by Charlotte, and they lost 3-4 to Old Dominion. They split 4 with UAB, and we all just kind of left them for dead. But lo and behold, you know, John McCormack, we all know it. The guy can really coach. They've got it going. They won, 6 out of 8 against FIU over back-to-back weekends. They took 3 out of 4 over Western Kentucky. Now here they are. They're 16-12. They're still not really, in that at-large range yet, but they're climbing. And they're up in the 70s now. We have a commenter here said they got some guys that can hit bombs. That's true. It's a power-hitting program. It's a power-hitting ballpark, and they can run the ball out of there. Southern Miss, more of a pitching team this year, so maybe not a great matchup for them going to FAU, but Southern Miss can really pitch. You know, I mean, you just saw what Hunter Stanley and Walker Powell did this weekend. That'll be an interesting matchup between kind of contrasting styles right there. Although FIU, give them credit, they've been pitching better lately.
I like it. KR, so do we get 2 from KR or 1 from KR to wrap?
Just 1, and we're done.
All right. I got a little something for us at the end. We got a little time left. Go ahead, KR.
Well, I'm not going to talk about Vandy Ole Miss because Fit will have plenty on that this weekend. So I'm going to go to the Big 12. And I'm going to go to Texas Tech at Oklahoma. Speaking of leading teams for dead, keep it on Oklahoma. Like I'm not buying stock in this and the idea of them making the postseason. But Oklahoma is a half game behind Oklahoma State in the standings. The RPI needs some work. There's no doubt. They're sitting in the second. But if they won 4 of their last 6 regular season games, their RPI being the top 45, if they can take these 2 remaining series and play well in Oklahoma City, they can find their way in the tournament. I tell you what, they would be dangerous because they've got a veteran lineup. They've got the arms. You've seen them. They've got the arms. They just need to be a lot more consistent. So keep an eye on Oklahoma. They're starting to play a little bit better, and they've got a golden opportunity with Texas Tech going to Norman. You know the wind's going to be blowing about 40 miles per hour, and that'll make things pretty interesting. So keep an eye on OU this weekend.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, they're just mystifying. I've had them a bunch. You've seen them a bunch, KR. It's like that. You watch Oklahoma play, and you're like, they're well coached. There's raw materials everywhere. Like it's talent, it's young talent. They've got old players. Their bullpen, like Jason Ruffcoin, if you had to finish a game and you didn't have Kevin Kopps available to you, Jason Ruffcoin is the next answer, right? Like this dude is dominant.
Landon Sims would like a word.
Ruffcoin behind Landon Sims.
I mean, I would pick Ruffcoin just because he's older and experienced. So the night I had him, guys, against Arkansas, he hit 99. I mean, like I'm going to throw this at you guys. I think Ruffcoin is going to be a sandwich pick this year. I think someone's going to take him in the supplemental first round, and if he stays healthy, he'll be in the big leagues within 12 months. That's how high on Ruffcoin I am. And I feel like I'm trying to check myself. I talk to scouts, and then I've run into a couple scouts that are super jazzed up about him. So, you know, I get it. Sam Sims is sexy, though. I mean, Landon Sims is hard to not pick.
As a fifth-year senior, though, I mean, if he goes that good, that just shows you how talented he is. I mean, that's you don't see a lot of fifth-year seniors go that high in the draft. Granted, he'd be a money saver, but he's also a guy that you would take because you believe in the talent.
Yeah. By the way, 22. He'd be 22 on draft day. So
Okay.
yeah, he's not like not one of the guys like TCU's got that are renting cars on the road and stuff like that. So
Or Kevin Kopps, for that matter, who's 24.
yeah, there you go. Boy, Kopps, that's awesome though. Good for you. Hey, okay, so here's in the spirit of bases loaded / I think it's going to be called squeeze play this year. In a little rebranding. I don't know that for sure yet, but we got to start getting ready for quad boxes. So I want you guys to help us pick a quad box for this weekend. So I'm just going to throw some games at you, and I'll give you guys each 2 of the screens for the quad box. So are you ready?
Okay.
Gonzaga at Portland. I'll repeat them. We'll go through again. Gonzaga at Portland. A&M at Auburn, because they're kind of playing for Hoover. Alabama at LSU. I'm thinking about. I'm curious about the Mountain West. You get San Diego State at UNLV. You've got Nevada at Fresno State. So if you want a little Mountain West action, those games have some intrigue. Southern Illinois at Indiana State. Indiana State. Here's where I'm going with Indiana State. If the Valley has a conference tournament, Dallas Baptist is running away with the regular season title. Indiana State's got a good RPI, but we're starting to get in some dicey ground. Like, is the Valley really getting 3 teams this year? So no. Indiana State needs to win that series. Kent State at Ball State. UTSA at Louisiana Tech. Where is my Summit League love? So in the Summit League, you've got the 2 Dakota schools playing and ORU going to Omaha. So if you want a little Summit action, those are kind of interesting. South Dakota State, North Dakota State. Who's the real Dakota State? There's got to be a name for that rivalry.
Do I have to put these teams in my quad box?
You do. We need 4 screens. Georgia Tech at Miami. Georgia Tech at Miami. If you're not quad boxing, Kendall, you're not trying. UCF at Tulane. That might be a tough choice. But Tulane's another one who's got a problem because they were looking great, and now the Americans getting 2 teams, it feels like. And so Tulane's got to start to really be the second place team. LaSalle at Fordham in the game that Matt Mikulski's pitching. Creighton at Seton Hall. Or you could just go off the board. You could just totally go off the board there.
I think Alabama LSU is fascinating because it feels like this is an elimination game here. This series, whoever loses this series, you're done. An at-large, I think, is an at-large team. Both those teams are in mode where they've got to win this series.
Yep, I think that's a great way to say it. It feels elimination-ish for sure.
I mean, obviously for LSU, but I think for Alabama too. I mean, barring, what do they got? Mississippi State next week. I think Alabama does. That's not a great matchup.
No. KR, give me one before we get Fitzy's second screen.
Georgia Tech, Miami. I feel like this is like the bipolar bowl. I have no idea what to week to week. You have no idea what to expect. So if you love going to a game with complete uncertainty, this is your ticket.
Yeah, I don't have kids and I've never raised a teenager, but I have coached them. And that's what these 2 teams are like. They're like 15-year-olds. You just don't, day to day, you just don't know. They just don't even know. They don't even know. 15-year-olds, they don't even know what's about to happen. And so that's well said, KR. Fitzy, who else would you like in your quad box?
Tulane UCF. You mentioned it. It's a big series for Tulane coming off that series lost to ECU. I liked what I saw from Tulane this weekend. We didn't talk about them at all on the podcast this week because we kind of focused on East Carolina. But Tulane has 4 legitimate starting pitchers and the legitimate back-end guy in Keegan Gillies. It's a young lineup. But, I mean, I feel like this is a regional caliber team. But you're right. I mean, now that they're no longer in first place, their RPI is actually improved by going to East Carolina. But Wichita's kind of closing the gap on them a little bit. UCF has been so up and down this year. I mean, at their best, they played pretty darn well. They split 4 games with East Carolina. Of course, they won that series at Ole Miss. But what UCF are we going to get this weekend? I think they just lost 3 out of 4, if I'm not mistaken, this past weekend. Was it to Wichita? So, I mean, I don't know what to expect from the Knights, but Tulane needs this series to kind of get themselves back on track toward an at-large.
Yep, that's good. KR, who do you want for the 4th screen of the quad box?
So I don't think this series has been mentioned at all, so I'm going to go with Georgia at Florida. I think we look at this
choice.
I will say this: Georgia got the bad news. We talked about Ryan Webb earlier, But if you look at Georgia's series at Vanderbilt, which they won, Georgia series against Arkansas, which they were leading in Game 3 in the 5th inning, they've played those better teams in the league really well on the road. I think this is going to be a much closer series than maybe a lot of people expect. I think this series is coming down to Game 3.
Gosh, Georgia, when you said that out loud, KR, Georgia feels like an upgraded Oklahoma State to me from a resume standpoint. Like, there's injuries, and it's just like they're bobbing and weaving. But obviously the difference for Oklahoma State is they don't have the Vandy series. They have a bunch of what you mentioned versus Arkansas. Like, almost beat somebody, had them on the ropes. Yeah, and then, for both teams, it's like the injuries give me pause as far as what they could get done in the postseason. But, getting there is the most important part.
Yeah, you almost kind of wonder if the fact that they've won this many games with that, they have 4 pitchers that are out for the year now. The fact that they've actually won that many games with that many injuries, almost kind of wonder if it helps them with the committee a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, that's a fair point. So, gentlemen, after the conference tournaments are over, so Kendall, for you at Hoover, do you zip back right away for Selection Monday, or how do you pull that off?
So I usually fly out Sunday morning to come back home. I just prefer being at home for the selections and for all the phone calls and stuff that I like to make. Right, so I usually come back Sunday. I don't think I've ever made the SEC tournament championship game. I think I've gone every year for the last 9 years.
That's smart though. So you watch the tournament championship, because the championship game's so late, it's problematic. Then you got to does Martha the morning? Okay, so here's my question, Martha question, and then Fitzy, I'm coming to you for your selection day routine. When is Martha going the craziest? The night before Selection Monday or the morning of the selection show?
Late into the night and early Monday morning. Martha is very busy, but Martha does not tip hands at all. Martha doesn't know going into the selection show. So,
can't do it. Fitzy, what's your typical routine? Do you get out of the conference tournament early too?
I don't have any typical routine. It kind of just depends where I am. I mean, when we've got the ACC here in Durham, I'll cover the championship game and I'll drive home. It's 10 minutes. But when I have to travel, I don't know. I still haven't even decided what the heck I'm going to do for conference tournaments this weekend. So this year, all bets are off.
Yeah, all bets are off. Yeah, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but for me, Selection Monday is so awesome. It's like, but it's crazy too, because you're heartbroken for some teams, you're elated for other teams. It's something when I don't get to do the selection show, my wife and I, Jenny and I, love it. Like Jenny was with me when I was coaching, so it's like the Selection Monday is like, I don't even know what a good analogy for it. It's like going to the mailbox to try and see if you got into a college or something. So it's I'll tell you guys one story before I let you go. Oh, go ahead, Fitzy. You go.
I'm just going to ask, are you hosting on Selection Monday this year?
Yes, yeah. So it'll be me and, to my knowledge, it'll be me and KP and Matt Schick is what it sounds like. Yeah,
that's a great crew.
Yeah. So, say it again, Kiara.
Are you guys doing like a digital Zoom thing, or are you doing in the studio?
Well, that's a good question. So I'm doing the Big 12 tournament from Bristol, so I'll be up there. And then I'm pretty sure KP is doing Hoover from Hoover and then flying up. I think that's how it's working.
You must be taking the company Learjet back to Bristol.
It's brutal travel. He's got like one option. It's ugly. It's like come screaming in. It's not. Yeah, KP's a warrior. It's not a good trip.
Is he going to have time to swing through the Minneapolis airport to use the golf simulator like he likes to do, or probably not?
That's KP, as we know, is an elite striker of the golf ball. It drives our friend Chris Burke crazy. So,
by the way, how about the fact that we're actually going to have conference tournaments and a selection day this year?
So awesome! Oh my gosh, so awesome!
This year,
yeah, that is the best. That's the. I don't know if you guys. We'll save this conversation for another podcast, but I get the argument from coaches that don't love conference tournaments. Like, I totally understand that. For me, as a college baseball super fan, I love conference tournaments. Like, the fact that I can be in my home office or, on a normal time and Tuesday morning turn college baseball on in a, like Hoover or whatever. I just from a fan's perspective, I love conference tournaments.
Well, go ahead, Aaron.
It's the most manic week of the year and the most sleepless week of the year for us. but even more than regionals week, because you're trying to monitor all the action from so many different places, and each game it seems like has some ramification for some other game across the country, because we're watching bubble teams, we're watching all these different things. It is really a wild week, and you're right, Runes. I think not having conference tournaments would really detract from that final week.
Yeah.
No, it would. And I've had this argument with people on the West Coast like every year. Like, if you don't think they matter or you think they're silly, like, you need to go to one of these tournaments and see how much the players, coaches, and fans care, and you'll think differently.
Yeah, no question. Hey, that's the thing people forget, Kendall. For me, not that my college baseball playing career was anything to write home about. Having said that, though, I was very proud of the teams I was on, and some of my fondest memories were conference tournaments. I mean, just for the players, you can't simulate that atmosphere. It's electric, and it's all the teams in the same place. It's awesome. I mean, it's just the players get really juiced up. And hey, the SEC coaches will tell you until they're blue in the face, hey, I go there every year thinking, calm down, manage your pitching, and then you wake up in the middle of the day on Thursday like you're just swept up in it. You can't help but get swept up in the deal. So it's awesome.
You have Ray Tanner back in the days of South Carolina was rolling, where they literally didn't care at all. They would show up in Hoover almost kind of hoping they just lost 2 games and went home and rested for a few days.
That's right. By the way, Fitzy, you see that in the chat? Pac-12 tourney in Vegas. Fitzy, you're going, baby. You're the D1 rep. Let's go.
I'm going to have to probably arm wrestle the 3 people we have who actually live out west to see if I can get there. But I would love it. I mean, that absolutely needs to happen.
Yeah, that's right. No, that like Stitchhead's a hipster. There's no way he would go to that. Yeah, I don't know. Shoddy, yeah, maybe Shoddy would go. Yeah,
that's Shoddy's territory.
Yeah, Shoddy's very Vegas. So
and managed to find a way to get like 8 wrecks on the way there.
Yeah, that's right. He would hitchhike to Vegas. So, gentlemen, it was a pleasure. As always, well done. It was cool to have the All-Star game. This was the D1 weekend preview IG Live All-Star game. That's what we did tonight. We brought out the big guns, and the big guns delivered. So, well done, boys. Have a good week.
Runes, great job as always.
Yes. Peace out. See you, boys.